Welcome!
You dumb. Welcome to the second episode of Bloodrot Talks. You do one bit and you fall apart at the seams. You're weak. You've been afflicted with frailty. And this is supposed to be Bloodrot Talks. Episode 2. Coming at you this wonderful Halloween evening on the Night of Worlds after some very exciting news that we received. It's been a pretty crazy day.
It's been a pretty crazy day. I'm Connie Barnett. This is Cass Emerson. And we're here to talk about the spoilers for the new set.
Among other things, you know, I'm whelmed about these new spoilers, of course. I was very normal about them today.
Yeah.
Before we get into what we're gonna do for episode 2, I just wanted to thank you all for watching the first episode. You know, we put that together. I anticipated maybe 50 people would watch it, and we got almost 500 views, which is bloody insane.
It's insane.
I never imagined that would happen. I had people message me asking for new advice and asking for gameplay videos, and I promise those are coming. I'm gonna do some of those. Connie will as well.
We saw your comments on the last video, and yeah, we're super stoked to keep doing more of these, and we're just super glad that our first episode was received so well.
Yeah, hopefully this one will also go pretty well. We got some exciting stuff to talk about. We're gonna try to not talk quite as long this time, because Jesus Christ, it was like a 3-hour episode almost. I can't believe how many of you actually watched that through, but thank you. This one should be shorter.
It was a complicated deck.
It was, yeah. It was mostly I had a lot to say. This time, Connie's going to do a little more talking, and I'm going to take the backseat a little bit because we're going to talk about some ninja stuff. But, you know, speaking of our classes, you know, that's another ninja assassin set. It's another one. That's the third one.
There's no actual way that this game already has 3 ninja assassin sets.
I know, it's beautiful. For context, for those that didn't read the description on the last one, so Connie plays basically only ninja, and sometimes has a mental boom where she drifts off of ninja, but then always finds her way back to ninja. And I sort of do that with assassin, but you know, it's not because of mental boom reasons. It's just because Kasai was cool and then Florian was cool.
It's like the opposite of mental boom for you, where you're like, no, I want to do something else, and then you just find your way back to assassin, and then you do well.
It's like the meme. It's the guy looking, but it's just me looking back at assassin every single time I play anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, before we talk about the new set, we thought it'd be cool to kind of talk about what we did this week. You know, how our armory went, what we got up to flesh and blood wise this week. I've been recovering from a bout of pneumonia, so apologies if I'm coughing. I'm all puffered up and hopefully good to keep soldiering on. But yeah, last night we went to our LL armory for the extra week at Chimera Gaming. So we've been doing a draft month. We played some LL. Connie, what deck were you playing?
I was playing. I struggled choosing between Fi and Zen. So I was worried that Zen wouldn't make sense with only 1 bonds, but he was still very good. I did end up going with Zen. I just really wanted to make sure, because I knew half the store was going to be playing Icelander. So I was like,
imagine playing Icelander. It's so cringe.
I wanted to make sure I had enough blues. And I didn't do great with Zen, but I got to resolve Bonds of Ancestry. I got to resolve Art of War. Felt very good. I miss those cards so much.
I can imagine. It's a bit of a ninja dry spell right now, but hopefully that'll be fixed soon. I was rocking Icelander. I'm not usually a wizard player, but I love me some disruption. And, you know, I put Icelander together right around when she LL'd. And first thing I played was the Icelander mirror into my friend Braden, who is much, much, much better at wizard than I am. But I almost got there, but he said I greeted on the last play I did. I conveniently had is it Blizzard? Is Blizzard the one that removes Go Again?
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that removes Go Again, right? Yeah. No, it was Hypothermia. I had Hypothermia in Arsenal when he played Scar for a Scar, so he just got super punished. But then I greeted to play out an Insidious Chill when I should have just presented lethal, and yeah, I lost. But yeah, I fought I fought Briar, and then I fought Lexi, and I don't remember the other one. Oh, it was Jasker's Acilio, which did not go well for him. Acilio does not do well into Icelander. It was pretty tragic.
I
I felt kind of bad.
I fought Hayden Starvo, which like it is kind of fun, you know, like us just doing weird stuff into each other. But
Hmm.
he did a combination of cards that I just didn't even think about with Rosetta. He was playing Electromagnetic Somersault and Starvo,
Yeah,
and
so cool.
he was doing plays like blocking with Fruits of the Forest, electromagnetic or electromagnetic somersault, and bouncing the thing to back to his hand, discarding it to gain life, or just like blocking two and then bouncing it back so that he could still do something on his turn. That card's pretty
Love
good in
Starvo.
Starvo. Uh,
It seems cool. Honestly, I might be playing Starvo in LL from now on, because I just love him. He's such a handsome man. He's so
yeah,
cool and big and huge and
but yeah,
cool.
it was really whenever we have like an extra Wednesday in our Armory month, we always do LL. Before we were doing Blitz, but we all kind of got like tired of Blitz.
Yeah.
Uh, Cass
Oh,
and I are
I do
not
not
very
care for
big
Blitz.
Blitz fans in general.
Did you hear the Blitz news today?
Yeah, they said that Zen's coming back,
They're unbanning Zen. It's so wild. They should do that, but also for OG Kasai, so that I can
so that
tear
you
up
have
skirmish
fun
season.
playing Blitz again.
Yeah, because I could play Kasai and there's no Kano, so it's just all vibes. Like, it's just super chill. But yeah, so I think that's good. We can probably move on to the Arakni set. Oh my god! So I woke
How?
up 6:30 this morning, and I already bought my tomes of Imperial Flame because I was like, okay, it's either gonna be a return to Volcor or it's gonna be the pirate set. So I also got Cut Through the Facade because my thinking was there's a pirate on Cut Through the Facade and what looks like a necromancer. So I figured
Mm-hmm.
that might be important if it's like a necromancy pirate set. So I had both my bases covered. And nowhere in a million years was I like, I'm getting more assassin cards today. And then we're watching the keynote and they show a ninja and a warrior. I'm like, that's cool. That's really cool. But it's talking about Arachne, and it showed all this assassin art. And my friends in the Discord were like, "Well, you don't know that Arachne's in the set." And I was like, "But it's called the Hunted. It's the Huntsman, the Hunter, the
Mm-hmm.
Hunt is the name." And then I showed the booster box. And it's got Arachne's face on it, and they were like, "No, you can't be sure. You never predict what LSS is gonna do." Which, mind you, I didn't predict they were gonna do all that. I figured Arachne was in it. I didn't know Arachne and Arachne and Arachne and Arachne, etc. were all in it. Which, oh
It's
my
so
god,
funny to me because I don't know how long ago it was when Brian Gottlieb was like, someone asked him like, "Oh, if you got to."
it was at the last oh, it was at the I forget. I had the clip, but it was at the last keynote speech
Mm-hmm.
that Brian Gottlieb gave because James White was on paternity leave. I watched the clip today. And it's honestly crazier than that because not only did he make the "Oops all Arachne" joke, what he said was Rosetta isn't the only return set that we're doing in these next couple sets. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you a hint. I've been trying to get my dream set made while James is on paternity leave, which I like to call Oops all Arachne. So he literally was like, hey, we're returning somewhere and there's gonna be Arachne. This is a hint. And he just knew that was so unbelievable that none of us would guess it, that it
It
was
was
real.
basically a bluff. Like he attacked us with a one attack stealth, and we were like, "There's no way he has Justinik."
Yeah, no, there's no way. And then he played Justinic and killed me in my sleep. And then I woke up in heaven, apparently, because there's a bajillion Arachnes. I don't know how well my camera will reorient, but in case you did not know, I am quite an assassin enthusiast.
Mm.
And Arachne Arachne was the first hero that actually like got me to play this game because like I'd seen the character designs before, and I liked Bravo, and I really didn't care for like anyone else.
Mhm.
Over time, the designs have grown on me, but like everybody else in the game looked kind of lame to me, except like Viscerai and Chain. But Chain was LL'd, and Viscerai's gameplay was not really my cup of tea. And then Arakni murdering Emperor, and just that whole storyline, I was like, this is the coolest hero they've ever done. And then it turns out, gameplay wise, they were not really the coolest hero. But I mean, they were still cool, but they were not good. And now that Assassins come so far, they've been very left behind, and I'm very happy to see that they're like getting the love they deserve.
Yeah, like I always felt bad that like the first Assassin was like all contract, and then they immediately pivot to Assassins entirely being
Mm-hmm.
about stealth. And so I'm glad that it's like come full circle, because like the character of Arachne is so cool. It's like
Yeah.
definitely one of the
Well,
coolest characters in the game.
and the contract mechanic is cool too. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the spoiled cards, but
Mm-hmm.
my buddy Braden always likes to have this little competition with me about who has the bigger card pool at the time, whether it's wizards or assassins. And prior to Rosetta, assassins had more cards than wizards, and then wizards got more. And now assassins are getting more. But the thing he fails to consider is that the first entire set of assassin has about 2 cards that are played still, like in decks. Maybe 3, because it's just leave no witnesses and surgical. Unless you're playing Arachne and you're playing a contract based list, like both Azuri and New, like the actual played assassins, use. I'm pretty sure just those 2 cards, unless they're doing like a contract heavy version, which
Mm-hmm.
like those are good, but I don't think they've had like crazy results. Like
Shred got
it's not really
dropped
the main
pretty
way to play it.
quickly once all of these new, like once Misspell came out and all of these like really good assassin reacts came out.
Yeah, Shred was the other one that's one I was trying to remember. That is the third one. And I think like Shred does come in like defensive metas. So I'll count that. There's like 3 cards. There's 3 cards that are pretty good. Sometimes cut to the chase. Sometimes. But maybe cut to the chase gonna make a comeback. Why don't we just dive into talking about the new set? Let's pull up the pictures.
All right, let's
Let's
do
talk
it.
about some cards.
So, Syndra, the Royal Draconic Ninja Hero.
I would just like to point out before we talk about Syndra, the Royal Draconic Hero, it is very funny that it is an Asian-inspired floating knife wielding character like Aurelia from League of Legends, and then her name is Syndra, like Syndra from League of Legends. I know there are a lot of League of Legends parallels between character design, like everybody called Acilio Zerath. But this one is like really fun to me. It feels like they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm very curious to see which like I'm curious to see which of Syndra or Phi is going to be the bigger winners of the additions to the Draconic Ninja card pool. Being able to make use out of Tome of Imperial Flame will probably be a pretty big buff for Syndra. But
Probably.
I'm not sure. It really depends on like what her hero ability is.
Well, the other thing too is here's why I'm leaning towards I think Syndra is going to be better. And this is just my speculation based on what I know of Draconic. But Draconic cares about reaching high numbers of chain links. And so right now, Phi isn't playing like a Draconic Matters kind of build. He's like, I mean, maybe some people are, but I don't know. The one that I know of that does well, with the funny name that Michael Jasker built, like that's just like as many head jabs as you can fit in, as many 0 for 4s with go again as you can fit in. like this set seems to be a daggers matter set, which
Yeah.
we'll talk about a little more as it goes on. But like every hero, it seems like the only weapons they have access to are daggers,
Hmm.
and from the looks of her, like she has a bajillion daggers, so it seems like she's gonna have some way to go really wide. And so I'm thinking that will mean that she'll make better use of the new draconic stuff, unless like I mean, Fi does get the extra chain link from the Phoenix Flame, so it's hard to say.
Well,
Maybe Kodachi Fi
Fi,
sees a
Fi.
comeback.
Well, the thing is, like, Fi doesn't struggle to get because it's not necessarily about. It's usually about just getting to 4 chain links to trigger rupture.
Yeah.
And then a card like Spreading Flames, the wider you go, that card becomes
Hmm.
better. But I think that it just depends how good these new cards like fit into Fi's game plan.
Well,
Or
there's cards you haven't seen yet, so let's maybe save that speculation until we go over those because I was
sure.
like home all day basically, just doing stuff, but Connie was out tonight, so Connie's missed a bunch of the spoilers. So I wanted to
Yeah,
capture your genuine reaction to
yeah,
them.
I tried to avoid looking at the spoilers while I was out so that like I just saw what was in the keynote this morning.
Yeah,
So, let's go. And I just got to say real quick, I think I like the young art better than the old art.
it's so much better. I don't know why, like I don't know why the hair color changes between young and old. I really like the black hair with the white streak. It looks like ash kind of.
Mhm.
And just the pose is cooler in this one, and the ribbons with the daggers on the end is so cool. Also, she's like wearing pants in this one, and I just think that's a cooler look for like a Imperial ninja. I don't know why she's not wearing pants in the other one.
Yeah, like I think if I wanted to get a Marvel, I would probably get a Marvel the young one.
It's just like what I did with New, where I like her younger better. It
Yeah,
just
for
looks
sure.
cooler.
And
Let's move on
then
to Fang,
bang. I
this like Lu Bu looking Mortal Kombat guy.
I've been saying to Cass for like over a year now. I was like, "Oh man, I'd really love just like a draconic warrior. I think that would be so
Hmm.
cool." And they did it.
And they did. And so he is also a Daggers Matters warrior, which is really neat.
Mhm.
Um, and there's some cards that I'm going to talk to you about later that have me really excited for the direction he's going to go. Let's move on from him for now
Mhm.
because I want to talk to you about the cards first.
Also, I love the crazy eyes that he's given in the young art.
Yeah, I think on this one though the older art looks cooler. It looks much cooler.
It does, but I just think they both look cool for different reasons. I just really
That's
like
fair.
the crazy eyes. And then yeah,
Oh,
the
sorry.
the Arachnes.
Yeah, we don't know what the spooky one in the middle is. My current guess is that they are Arachni Agent of Chaos. That's my
Hmm.
guess, which I'll get to when we talk about the other Arachni that was spoiled, because we have 7 Arachnis here, and then there's like some art in the video that seems like it might be teasing more, and then there's also another one that got spoiled.
Yeah, I
So
think
there's
the
so much Arachni to talk about.
this is like more of the. I love the cloak with the eyes in it. It's so
It looks
cool.
like it's giving me big Alucard from Helsing vibes of like when he pulls the coat up and all the eyes show up and the dog teeth.
Yeah, it's
It's
like
so cool.
it's a very unique design. I really love it.
And something interesting, if you click back to that real quick,
Oh yeah.
is like so story wise, we know that Arachne kills Emperor, gets away with it. Everybody's like, what the hell just happened? Because that didn't have anything to do with either of the rebellions that were going on.
Hmm.
And then Arachne shows back up in the pits and like has a conversation with Azuri. And Azuri is like, dude, why did you go do that? And it turns out it was a faked contract. And Azuri's like, all right, well, everybody's after my friend here. We're just gonna have to find a way to keep you safe. And then in this set, Arachne is right back in the throne room looking like this. So whatever their plan is, I'm really curious where the story is going to have Arachne just show back up right at the scene of the crime looking like that.
Yeah.
Because right now, like, if you watch the trailer, the Volcor nobles are like murdering a ton of innocents and like branding their citizens, like trying to find out who Arachne was because they have no idea what their deal is. Um, yeah, it's a really, really neat story direction to go.
And then yeah, this is just without the one covering it. So
That looks like Leave No Witnesses girl. I think that's who that is. I'm not sure, but it looks like the Leave No Witnesses girl, and she
yeah,
seems like, yeah.
that's it. Looks like
Um,
that.
so that leads me to believe that these ones are not necessarily all like the Arachne that we know and love. That they might be like pretending to be Arachne, like a Spartacus situation. Uh, I'm really curious. They have the text blurred out at the bottom, and people have been trying to decipher it all day. I think people are guessing it's like Chaos Phantom Evo dagger or like Exo weapon or something like that. Like their daggers turn into assassins. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
I'm
it's
really
neat.
curious cuz like my assumption is that what these do is read they each define stealth differently.
That's my guess too, because I showed you the spoiler we got, like the other Arachne, right? Did you read it or no?
Yeah, it's had I think it said stealths have go again or your first stealth has go again. Is that what
Not
it
your
said?
first stealth. We'll get to that, but
All right.
yeah, like
I only saw it
people
very
people are
briefly.
people are treating it like that is the Arachne that we're getting, but I don't think it would make sense for that to be like the text we get on like the Arachne that's in that throne room, because that's the art that's grayed out on the website. So it
Hmm.
leads me to believe the chaos has some sort of like you swap out which hero you're using and you have multiple forms and each one maybe defines stealth differently, which if that's how it works, that's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, like
Um
I'm hoping it's gonna be some kind of like stance character thing where you start as the like Arachne agent of chaos and then you have to like do something either like there's like some card that changes you into a particular stance. I'm not exactly sure,
I'm
but
guessing it'll probably be equipment. It would be really neat if it was a dagger and it was like a chaos dagger and it's like if this hits, you just like swap forms or something like that.
oh,
Um
that'd be crazy.
it also seems like, well, okay, I'll talk about that when there's another card, but it seems like they might give them a dagger with stealth.
Oh,
I think
interesting.
I think that's what they're gonna do. But let's keep going. Let's keep going.
So yeah,
Okay, so yeah, this is the Arachne we were talking about. So this one doesn't say your first stealth attack, which is what Solitary Confinement says. This one says like the first stealth attack. So this includes your opponent's stealth attacks.
oh,
So like if you're playing new into this, you can just play Bonds of Agony and it just gets go again
and does
into
that say
them.
38 health?
Yeah, 38 health. So it is like the life curve of as if this is adult solitary confinement.
Oh, see that
Um
that's like weird because like if these have health, then I feel like switching into them in the middle of the game wouldn't make sense because that
I'm
resets your health total
assuming
unless
I'm
it's
assuming there will be some mechanic that carries over health.
yeah.
Cause yeah, oh yeah, cause I guess Mekhlavosin has like an asterisk for his health, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
I
it's
don't
like
know.
you're supposed to choose one of these at the start of the game or like these are like I have no idea, no clue.
It would, yeah, I'm not sure either. But I
Uh,
hope that you get to swap between them during game, because that would be the coolest thing ever.
yeah.
That's my hope.
Then there's the marked mechanic.
Yes, which is so cool flavor
Yeah,
wise.
that's
So
very cool.
it seems like this is gonna be a mechanic. Like I wanted it to be an assassin thing, like you're marked for death, but I think this is
Hmm.
gonna be a draconic mechanic, and I think they're gonna try and mark you when you're Arachne, because it seems like the cards that we've seen, the draconic heroes care about being marked, or like
Hmm.
they can mark Arachne with a card that we've seen. Um, yeah, super cool. I really like how much they're playing with like these special tokens because this one doesn't have like a promo symbol.
Hmm.
So the marked token just looks like this, is my
Which,
understanding.
yeah, it's just super. It's a really cool design.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to kind of tinker with the like immediate visual aspect of stuff like this for newer players.
Yeah, it's super neat. Oh, okay. So
Okay, so yeah, this is the one I was talking about.
mark target opponent opposing hero if that hero was Arakni. Gain 1 resource. Draconic
Yeah,
instant.
this seems pretty neat. Um, we haven't seen any assassin stuff that marks people, I don't think, unless I missed something in the spoilers. But that's why I think marking is gonna be like a thing that the Drakais are doing. But we'll see.
Okay, that's neat. Okay, we got
Oh,
a stealth contract. Okay,
yes.
you
Some
are
people are not happy
contracted.
about that. I am thrilled about it personally.
So you are contracted to hit a marked hero named Fang. So I guess that means assassin will have its own way of marking people then.
I'm so dumb. Yeah, it literally does say a marked hero.
Um,
Yeah. Okay, so I guess both can do it then. Both can do it then. That's my
when
bad.
you complete this contract, draw a card. Ooh. Okay,
I was
so
just so excited seeing stealth and contract on the same card. Because some people were like saying that they like stealth or that they like contract better than stealth. I think that's a little silly personally. Like, it's personal preference. But like the thing about stealth is it can be anything. So you just have to like what the hero you want to play does with it, you know?
this
And
art
so
is fantastic. I love skeletons.
it's really good. The art on the next one is cracked though.
Yeah.
Click the next one. Click the next one.
Oh,
Yeah.
what is you doing?
It's so gross. It's so creepy. So this one's the same thing but for Syndra. So
Yeah.
a couple things I want to note about this while it's assassin time before I move on and let you talk about ninja time. So it being stealth contract means like both cut to the chase and razor's edge work on this. All the spikes, anything that cares about cards with stealth, work on it. But it also works with Arachne Huntsman's ability, as in
Mm.
it has contract, so you can still look at the top card of the opponent's deck. And it does something cool where it's contracting you to do things other than banishing specific types of cards. And so I really like that design space because I was worried they weren't going to find a way to bring contract forward. But I think contracting you to perform certain actions is just cool. And I think that not just limiting it to what type of card you're banishing is a really good idea. And it's a way where like they can bring Arachne Huntsman forward even if they're going to do like weird Chaos Arachne. This
Mm.
makes me think there's going to be more contract support in this set.
Because yeah, that was definitely like a criticism I had of contract, where it was like, if you had the right contracts into the right deck, then it felt pretty good. But if you didn't, and like you don't have the sideboard space to like
Yeah.
play the contracts for each different type of deck. So I'm very glad for them that they're like seem to be opening up contract as a keyword to doing more stuff.
Yeah, me too.
And the fealty token.
Oh yeah, this one's neat.
Instant destroy this. The next card you play this turn is Draconic. At the beginning of your end step, if you haven't created a fealty token or played a Draconic card this turn, destroy this. Okay, so it doesn't stay around for forever.
Yeah. So it'll stay around the turn you create it, but then at the end of your next turn, if you haven't used it or you haven't played another Draconic card, then it'll go away.
Okay.
But you can use it to trigger. Well, I think you saw the one where that cares about being Draconic, where it does like the.
I saw the 0 for 4 one, which I think. Yeah, I saw this one.
Yes.
This
So
one,
yeah,
oh,
this
this
is 0
card
for
is
4.
so good. This is such a good card.
Dude, you have no idea. You have no idea. They showed 3 more.
There's more of these?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're gonna be very happy.
But
But read
yeah,
this one just for the people who haven't seen it.
so when this attacks, if it is Draconic, so if you use this or something else to make it Draconic, it gains Go again, and the next 3 Draconic cards you play this turn cost 1 resource less to play. We like 0 for 4 Go again.
That we do.
And it
And it
blocks
has
3.
a Fabled stapled onto it.
Hell
So
yeah.
you don't have to run that terrible card.
Well, people have been kind of specking hard on that, but I'm just like, I don't know why they would do that when this exists.
I don't know.
But
We'll see. I mean, we're gonna feel like clowns if it ends up being run. But, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think I've seen these cards. So I think they might be a little zoomed out. So why don't I read these ones?
Yeah, this is
So
as big as the image gets.
yeah. So the first one there is called Tarantula Toxin. This is what makes me think they're going to print a dagger with stealth. You'll see.
Mhm.
So it's a 0-cost attack reaction, 3 block. Choose one or both. Target dagger attack gets +3. Or target card defending an attack with stealth gets -3 block this turn. So you can choose one or both. And there's not a reason to choose both if there's no dagger with stealth. And if there is a dagger with stealth, this is just a nick on a dagger because it gives +3 to the dagger and -3 to something blocking the dagger. Now, mind you, if they don't
Wow.
block the dagger, it's just a +3 reaction. But it's pretty crazy. It seems pretty good. I'm really excited to see what the assassin daggers do in this set. And hopefully it's something cool, like it's switching what your hero does.
The next one's
Okay.
a draconic ninja. A draconic
It's
ninja
a
card.
2-cost 2 attack. But it costs 1 less to play for each draconic chain link you control.
Alright,
When this
that's really
attacks
good.
a hero, each dagger you control deals 1 damage to them. If damage is dealt this way, the dagger has hit. Destroy the daggers. So, on attack, it flick knives your daggers at them. I'm assuming that Syndra's going to have some sort of on-hit effect with daggers, or she's going to run things that care about daggers having hit. It also seems like she's going to find ways to equip a ton of daggers. Like, I don't know, like, she has like a bajillion in her art. I'm wondering if maybe she creates dagger tokens or something. And so you can like build up dagger tokens and then send a big nuke at them with them.
Oh, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, it seems pretty cool. It seems pretty cool.
Oh, that card has me very excited. And what's this?
Yeah,
What's
and
this
then
last one here?
Long Whiskered Loyalties. This is the Draconic Warrior attack react. For each Draconic chain link you control, choose one. Target dagger attack gets +2. You may attack with target dagger an additional time this turn, or the next time target dagger hits a hero this turn, mark them.
Oh, okay.
So this is a react, and it cares about the Draconic chain links you control. So I'm very interested to see. I feel like Fang might end up being like not necessarily like Bolton, kind of like doing draconic attacks but stringing weapon attacks inside, like between them stuff. I'm not quite sure. I'd be interested to see.
It sounds like at the very least this was like, okay, you know, we haven't made a dagger matters warrior, and that's what this is.
Because they have Quicksilver dagger, but it's like pretty bad right now. I feel like I read somebody said that Brian Gottlieb was talking about liking Quicksilver dagger and wanting to make it more viable. So I'm curious if it ends up being run. But let's move on to the next 3, because these are also draconic. So these 3 are just draconic attack actions. There's a 0 for 4, 1 for 5, and 2 for 6. All 3 blocks. For the Drakai, when this attacks a marked hero, create a fealty token. I think they all
do
that actually. Yes. So they're just wounding blow, whatever the 2 for 5 is, and
I mean, I really like them blocking 3
and
doing
6.
all that. That's
I
imagine
they seem pretty good.
Yeah, I imagine the last 2 probably are more draft oriented, but definitely I could, 0 for 4 probably be very. If the fealty token ends up being very important for CC, then definitely I think that would be something you would run.
I have a feeling it will be because of the cards I'm about to tell you about. You're gonna want to make fealty tokens. So this picture was really low res, so there's no way you can read it. But before you came home, I went through and I like scoured what the text was so I could read them.
Yeah,
so that first one there,
zoom in enhanced.
That first one there is a 1-cost warrior attack reaction, not draconic. Target weapon attack gets +3, and damage this would deal can't be prevented.
Really? Oh,
yes,
that's so good for fighting Enigma.
Mm-hmm.
For like
it's
all
fantastic.
The warriors. Wow.
Yeah, because it just has weapon attack. It doesn't specify like one-handed weapon attack. Doesn't specify sword or dagger. Just weapon attack.
Oh, I'm very glad they printed that.
I was hoping they would print something like that.
Oh, that's rad.
I am very excited to dabble in Kasai again if I can find the time between all of those Arachnis that are calling my name. But okay, so these next three cards are the warrior actions. They're auras, and so they're all stances. And it seems like Fang can set up auras, and then his next turn they pop and they have a certain effect.
Right.
So the red one, they're all 0 costs, but there's a red, yellow, and a blue, and they're all block 3. They all have go again as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the red one is Flurry Stance. At the start of your turn, destroy this. Then you may attack with each dagger you control an additional time this turn. And then yellow is Agility Stance. At the start of your turn, destroy this. Then your dagger attacks get go again this turn.
Mm-hmm.
And the blue one is Power Stance. Start of your turn, destroy this. Then your dagger attacks get +1 attack this turn.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like you set these down. They have go again, so it's not like a stupid golden anvil thing where like you set up the aura or like you play
Are
an
they
action and it ends your
2
turn.
or 3 blocks?
They are 3 blocks.
Ooh, that's
They're
very
warrior
good.
cards. They're warrior cards. They
Oh,
gotta be
oh
3
yeah,
blocks.
they're warrior cards. Warrior cards.
Yeah, they're not draconic warrior cards, but this is the stuff you're really gonna like. This is the ninja stuff. So we already went over the first one, Art of the Dragon Blood.
Yeah.
Then there's Art of the Dragon Claw. When this attacks, if it is draconic, it gets when this hits a hero, destroy all cards in their arsenal.
So is that a 1 for 5?
Yes, yeah, it's a 1 for 5.
Okay, so it's
then-
like I forget what the rupture one that does the same thing, but this seems a lot easier to trigger than the rupture one.
Yeah, because it's just a 1 for 5. It just needs to be draconic. So if you have a fealty token, you can do this on like a smaller hand. Basically, what I'm thinking is kind of what I was getting at earlier is it seems like it's easier for Syndra to get her effects off while still blocking. Like it seems like Syndra will have ways to play out smaller value hands
Mm-hmm.
to set up the bigger turns instead of just no block, eat the disruption, send whatever damage you can on 5.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I'm getting. But there's 2 more.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a 1 for. It's 1 for 3. Sorry, the image is so blurry. It's called Art of the Dragon Fire. When this attacks, if it is draconic, deal 2 damage to any target.
Okay, so it's like 1 for 5, but the damage is there's a rupture card that does the same thing.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's one of the rares, but that one I think blocked 2. And this one looks like it
okay, yeah.
blocks
This one blocks 3, and this shows what I know about ninja cards. But then the last one is quite neat. So it's a 1 for 5. When this attacks, if it is draconic, it gets when this hits a hero, put a -1 counter on an equipment they control. Then if it has 0 defense, destroy it.
You know, it's interesting because there's a draconic reaction
Mm-hmm.
that does that. I think Melting Point. That's what it's called.
Melting Point is isn't Melting Point the Ranger one?
Oh, I don't remember what the draconic one is called, but it's an attack reaction
Mm-hmm.
that like lets you do that. But I think they kind of just recreated those cards, but like these are way easier to trigger than the other ones. The other ones were
Yeah.
all rupture.
Okay. Oh, okay. So yeah,
They're
like
all do that on
these ones
rupture.
mean that draconic heroes can still do stuff on smaller hands, which I think is good. I think that seems good. None of these have go again, but they seem pretty good.
All right, well
And they're 3
that's
blocks.
I think that's all the cards for now.
Yeah.
But,
So the future of Assassin and Ninja is looking pretty cool. Oh, there was one other thing which we should mention. I know you heard this one before, but on the on like the developer panel with Brian Gottlieb and James White, they said like somebody was asking about Katsu. They're like, it really sucks to be a Katsu main right now. And Brian like interrupted them, and they was like, this set, like this set, you're gonna get your payoff. Don't worry. They name dropped who designed the stuff, like who designed the card they were talking about. I am assuming he is a person that cares about Katsu. So I'm hoping that means Katsu comes back.
Just something like I was feeling pretty bad when they banned like Art of War and Bonds and all that stuff, but like even like through that, I still had like faith that LSS would fix it eventually.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's just one of the things I love about this game. It's
Oh,
just
I
like they they do such a good job of listening to what people are asking for, but they also like are willing to put their foot down sometimes too.
Yeah, there's been a
Um,
bunch of times where they'll tell us like straight up like we're wrong, and then
yeah.
people will get pissed. Like I remember after Heavy Hitters came out, people were like, "What were you thinking with KO? He is
Mhm.
unspeakably giga busted." And it was like he had a pretty good win rate. He had a lot of bad matchups, and he fizzled out of the meta pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And it's like, like they know, and sometimes like they'll release something and they'll make a mistake, but yeah, they're pretty quick. Like given their 9 month turnaround, like they have to do things 9 months in advance. Like they seem to be getting pretty good at predicting what they need to do, like one set in the future. Like it feels like there is only ever like a bad thing happening for about half a set to a set's lifespan.
Yeah, it's like because Cass and I used to play when we stopped playing Magic, and we were hoping we'd find a new card game. We were playing the
You were
league.
hoping we'd find a new card game. I
Well,
quit.
that's true. You just gave up
I
on
played
paper
Legends of
cards.
Runeterra because I wanted to have a card game to talk to you about. I hated that game.
Yeah,
I
and
yeah.
I feel like one of Legends of Runeterra, which is the game that I'm talking about, they they kind of like I felt like one of the issues that they had is they caved to people's complaining too much. They did
Mhm.
like patches like every other week. Not every other week, like every couple weeks or so. Something
It
like
was
that.
pretty frequent. I don't know the exact cadence, but yeah, it was like
And
I
that
would
like
take a break for
any
2 weeks and then I wouldn't know the stat line of the cards and then I wouldn't
yeah,
be
like
playing around
any
them.
time something was at the top of the meta, they would just nerf it. And
Yeah.
like not there like was no space for adaptation, and like a lot of the times like what they would do to nerf something was because like in something like a paper card game like Flesh and Blood, they I think they've only done like very few erratas. I think it was just is it
There's
just Briar?
Briar, and I
I
feel like
feel
there might have been one more. I
yeah,
can't remember
like
though.
I think it might have just been I don't remember, so I won't
Yeah.
say anything. But with LOR, they like errata like every time they did a patch, it was to like errata cards and to change, what kind of card they were, how much damage they did, etc. And so it's just, even though like I was saying, like I got like, I was upset that I couldn't like they banned bonds and Art of War and the
Hmm.
decks that I invested a lot into like weren't as good. I still immensely respect the LSS team for doing that
Me too.
because
There's like
the game
oh
is
sorry.
noticeably better after
Yeah,
they did that by a lot.
absolutely. And I mean, I'm slightly biased because it made the game more like the kind of game I want to play. Because I've always been like a mid-range enthusiast, and every time there's just some numbskull aggro deck. Not to be offensive to the aggro players, Connie, but like, every time I roll up and I'm like, I hope I don't get high rolled for 50 damage on this turn,
Hmm.
it kind of sucked. I was not huge on it. And now that the high rolls are like 20 damage, that's reasonable. I'm cool getting high rolled by a 20 damage turn.
Hmm.
There are things I can do to navigate a game like that usually. And so I really like that. And I I'm feeling pretty good about the state of the game, and it looks like this next set is patching up a few problems that I had with the game,
Hmm.
uh, and giving more support to Assassin, which is great. Not everybody's happy about that, the Codex haters, but I'm very happy about that.
And
Um,
more support to Ninja. I'm very happy about that.
yes, because they
I
they really need it right now. I know people were saying like we just got a Ninja and Assassin set, and that's true, and we're biased because we're Ninja and Assassin players.
yeah,
But it's like Ninja sucks right now. Like Zen is pretty alright. Zen's pretty alright, but he's like a different deck. Fi is okay if you just play him as a pure head jab deck, but now he gets beat out by Dio, and Katsu is dead. Like he
yeah,
died. He got dishonored. They ran a bunch of knives through him.
Yes.
And Assassin had a tiny card pool, and we needed Arakni to have stuff to do. But the thing I wanted to mention about the patch notes thing with nerfing
Mhm.
cards like that is I come from a fighting game background. Like I'm much less of a card gamer historically. Now I'm a card gamer. Now I just think about card games all day.
Mhm.
But in fighting games, when they made the shift to being like an online play thing and out of the arcade scene, there was this problem where all of a sudden everybody and their grandma was like, wait, I can go on social media and I can yell at Katsuhiro Harada and I can tell him that Snake Edge is a busted move and it
Mhm.
should be nerfed this way. And then the floodgates were opened, and every fighting game, with no exception, has endless pages of criticism that is just complaining about the devs, calling them stupid. Like, Harada and Michael Murray get death threats all the time,
Mhm.
and it's like it's so toxic. And so I think it is important that LSS is able to maintain that, like, this is James White's game. He's letting you play it. Like obviously we are the
Mhm.
consumers and we're supporting it, but at the end of the day, he's the one that came up with it. He's the reason we like it. You know,
Yeah.
this is his brainchild. We just got to trust that he cares about the game and he knows what he's doing. And having like those kind of figureheads to guide the game that way, I think is very, very good, and I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, like I don't think decisions should be made based on like the outcry to like the immediate reaction of someone of like a group of people who haven't like played that much with like new cards, or
Mm-hmm.
like there's only been like like one weekend of tournaments or something.
Yeah.
Like obviously they've made like a few mistakes here and there. uh I think Tails was pretty crazy, and Starvo
Wouldn't
and
know.
stuff like that. But
Aside from the Lexi meta, which I
but
guess I didn't like very much, but
but I think as it stands now, like they've LSS has demonstrated very clearly that they're paying a lot of attention. They're willing to take drastic measures if they feel it is necessary, but
mm-hmm.
they don't want to like, you know, people are like, "Oh, count your blessings is annoying. We should ban count your blessings." And they're like, "No. Play
Yeah,
Poison the Well, play Gravekeeping, deal with it."
yeah.
That's kind of
And now,
like their response to it.
Count Your Blessings saw some success and got steamrolled lots of other times. It is
Mm-hmm.
a strategy that decks can do, and it's fine. It's like another alternate strategy. I don't think it's that big a deal. Now, we do need to curtail the time a little
Yeah.
bit so that we don't end up talking for 3 hours again. So I think we should move on. Speaking of good directions, there's a super cool event coming up this weekend that is awesome, where if you participate in one of these events, and they're at like every local game store that carries Flesh and Blood. So if you haven't signed up for one, it is happening Saturday, Sunday, I think. Maybe also tomorrow. I think it's the first to the third.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know that you have a local game store that has Flesh and Blood, and you've not signed up for one of these events, there might still be one happening. And that is the Ira event. So Ninja Main, why don't you take it away? Let's talk about Ira.
Ira is a hero I enjoyed very much while I could play it in Blitz before it LL'd very quickly after, I think it was after Chain LL'd. Uh
She LL'd around the same time that Kasai did, I think.
oh yeah, yeah.
There was like that chunk where it was like Kasai, Ira, and Kano all LL'd at around the same time.
But, despite me being a ninja player and an aggro player most of the time, I do enjoy mid range every now and then. And
That
Ira,
segues into my first question,
all right.
Connie, which is, can you tell the people what makes Ira special compared to other ninjas? I was talking about, numbskull, big aggro, 40 damage turns. What makes Ira different?
But what makes Ira different? So I'm gonna switch to the other layout, and I'm gonna pull up Ira Scarlet Revenger.
Yes.
So she's a very simple hero, the simplest hero in the game, one of the first heroes they ever made in this game, and it just said her hero ability just says Your second attack each turn gets +1. That does not seem that impressive. It's just +1.
Yeah.
But
I
that
didn't think it seemed
means,
very impressive when I started.
but it means a lot because what Ira's hero ability to me is saying is it's not that, hey, like you can go crazy and do a lot of damage. It says that when you use 2 cards in your hand to attack, that is above rate compared to what everyone else could do with 2 cards. In particular, what I feel Ira does the best with is dagger for 1, dagger for 2, some 5 attack.
Mm-hmm.
What that means in Ira is that's 8 damage on 2 cards. So 2 card 8, that's very above rate. That's swing big with no downside. And Mask of Momentum contextualizes that to this is.
Can you read what Mask of Momentum just?
Oh.
Because nobody plays that card anymore, and it's a dead card until now.
For the uninitiated into the ways of Ninja, Mask of Momentum was a headpiece that Ninja players used to run a long time ago before Mask of the Pouncing Lynx was printed.
In the ancient times.
What this says...
Not before it was printed.
Well, it was kind of like... It was printed... Well,
It was played before Bonds of Ancestry was a thing.
Yeah, Bonds of Ancestry. That's what I mean to say.
Yeah.
So what Mask of Momentum says is a once per turn effect. When an attack action card you hit is... When an attack action card you control is the 3rd or higher chain link in a row to hit, draw a card. So what that means for what I was talking about with the 2 card 8 is not only are we getting 2 card 8 value, which is already above rate, it's 2 card 8 value. If you don't give me a card, I get an arsenal. I might get to play another card if the card I'm triggering Mask of Momentum has go again. And that means that, I'm constantly setting up for 5 card hands and I can just play the value game really well. Ira, also, if you're playing into a deck and they don't have any defense reactions, or their only defense reaction is Sigil of Suffering, because Sigil of Suffering uniquely gets the +1 after it blocks, which does not break Zephyr Needle when it's attacking for 3.
Oh, is that how that works?
That is how that works.
Neat.
So, Kodachi, Zephyr Needle for 3 into a 1-cost 5. That is a 2 card 9 with a draw on hit.
That's pretty crazy.
So, again, now that, things like Art of War and tomes and stuff have been removed to the game, being able to block 2 cards, send 9 to draw a card to get an arsenal, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of value.
15 value even without the card draw? If you block 6 and then send 9?
And
that's
then
pretty good.
Ninja uniquely has this card called Flick Flack, which is one of the most overrated defense reactions in the game if you're running a bunch of combo cards and if you're playing into a deck that's going to attack you twice. What Flick Flack says is it's a 0 for 4 defense reaction, and it comes in all 3 colors, so 4 block, 3 block on yellow, and then 2 block on blue.
We're playing all 3 colors? Or we're just playing 2 colors?
I'm just playing the red and the yellow. I've seen some builds play the blue, but we'll get into that in a sec. But what it says is, if the next card you defend with this turn is a card with combo, it gains +2 block. So what that means in our value equation is, so, assuming it's a deck that's attacking with 2 things, so that, like a brute especially, you tend to get the full value off of it. The lightning heroes, you can often get the full value off of it. Other ninjas, you can get the full value off of it. So you're going to block with Flick Flack for 4. Then your 3 block combo card is actually going to block for 5. So that's 9 value on defense. Then you're going to send your Kodachi into your Zephyr Needle into a 1 for 5. That's 9 value on offense. That's 18 value in a turn cycle.
Plus the card draw threatened.
Plus the card draw. So it's like those are good numbers. You know,
I might have to play this deck a little bit.
what Ira ultimately
value.
is a numbers deck, and you know, the combination of Mask of Momentum and Zephyr Needle into the decks that don't have D-Reacts means that +1 is much more than just +1. And so...
Well, and then the other thing you can do too, which I don't think you mentioned yet, is use the +1 not on a dagger, but on like a 2-cost disruptive piece.
Yes, that's what I was about to get into. So,
excellent.
Ira, this does not factor. Mask of Momentum doesn't factor into this because this is only 2 attacks, but the +1 from Ira's ability on something like CNC, it is a very big deal in this game we play called Flesh and Blood to turn something from a 6 to a 7, especially if that card has an on hit. And so we'll go through the deck in this build I have here in a second, but you know, card like the Weakest Link, turn that 6 into a 7. It's not, they have to give, you know, either equipment or they have to have a D-React or something like that. Race Face, you know, turning those 6s into 7s means a lot into decks that don't block very well.
That's something that I really like in new as well. That's why I'm a little bit drawn to Ira. Is with new, like you pitch a blue to a 2-cost disruptive piece. It's attacking for 6, but you're threatening the rousing wave. And so yeah, with Ira, it's not even threatening the reaction. It's just always like it is attacking for 7.
And so that's why I'm excited about Ira.
Makes sense.
I think.
Do you anticipate that in this new set she's gonna get more toys to play with?
Absolutely.
Because they said they're gonna give Katsu stuff, and they're doing lots of stuff that cares about Draconic. So assumedly, Faya and Syndra are gonna get stuff. It seems like they're giving Syndra those tools to do like little value hands, and I'm really curious if any of those tools end up being run in Ira.
Right now, I've kind of like I've built this deck to not just be pure blocking value. I've thrown in a few go-agains just because I want to make sure that into a deck like Enigma, you don't just like aren't able to do enough damage and just kind of like auto lose, because the Phantasmal Footsteps is uniquely very good into Kodachis. And so you kind of have to like actually have some go-agains to make your turns wide enough such that, you know, when she plays an aura and to say, okay, pass it back to you, you've got 5 cards, can you kill this aura, that you actually have the firepower to do so.
Makes sense. That actually that brings me to my next point, which or not my next point, my next question, which is, so like if you're looking to play Ira, like you're going to this event, you're like, Ira seems really cool. What kinds of decks are you looking to play Ira into? What kinds of decks are bad for you if you're going to play Ira? So like, say somebody's thinking about their local scene. If they have a lot of, what kind of deck is it really good for? What kind of deck should they maybe avoid it if they see a lot of those at their store?
Well, I definitely think Ira is, you know, if you've got a bunch of Kano players, you can. One of the things that I like about Ira, and we'll we'll go into it a bit later, is that I feel like Ira very Ninja as a class, I feel makes good use of sideboard cards because they get
Hmm.
to shove a bunch of cards with go again before they play them. And, you know, there are lots of ways to sort of like morph your list to be better against certain kinds of things.
Okay.
The only struggle is you can't be good against it, against all of it.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, with the current sideboard space, it's like difficult to do that. How
um,
many different builds do you have right now that we're gonna
so,
make available for our lovely viewers?
so right now, this is like a very, this is a slightly tiger focused build. So I've
Hmm.
got Flex Claws, Aspect of Tiger Body, Mauling Key, and then I just have a 3 block combo card tiger thing in the blue slot there. And
Hmm.
that's just to make sure that, so between Flex Claws, Bittering Thorns, Razor Reflex, E-Strike, that you have enough cards that have go again, or, you know, something like Razor Reflex, which can help with killing wards into Enigma, that if you are like, that you can still do stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I've
Oh,
seen,
what's the rationale behind standing order? That was the other thing I wanted to ask about. Because I don't think like any deck right now plays this card.
so I think Standing Order is very uniquely positioned in this deck because of Mask of Momentum. So
Hmm.
what I like about Standing Order in this deck is, you know, you pretty much like most of these reds,
Hmm.
you would want to arsenal, and this yellow flick flack you'd want to arsenal too. But all of these blues, except for, you know, Warmongers into the matchups where that matters, you don't really want to arsenal these. And so what
That's
Standing
fair.
Order does is it allows you to, um, you know, you can sort of like get away with arsenaling some of these blues, and then you can just, you know, get rid of it to get more, to get the either the +2 block or the +2 attack value.
So it's kind of
And
like the inverse of what I was saying with the new guide, where with new, if you haven't seen Codex, you can't brick your arsenal. But
mhm.
with Ira, or at least this build, if you haven't seen Standing Order, it's safer to brick your arsenal because there's probably a Standing Order coming up.
Yes, and then the other thing that's nice about Standing Order is its 0 for 4 version of it is very good if, like, you know, let's say if you go like Dagger Dagger, you know, something like a 1 for 4 go again, or if your opponent lets you draw a card and lets Torrent of Tempo have go again, you know,
Mm.
you want to, if you have no resources floating, drawing either a Standing Order or a Soul Bead Strike is like, you know, pretty ideal, so that like, because like sometimes, you know, like you would proc the Mask of Momentum and then you draw like Razor Reflex and you'd be like, I can't use this right now, I'm gonna arsenal it for next turn, or you know, D-react so I can use it to block on the next turn. But if you draw something like Soulbead Strike, or Standing Order, even with Standing Order, if you don't have the card to bottom, then you're just like, boom, send 4.
Zero
And
before.
then all of a sudden that 2 card 8 or 9 then becomes a 2 card 12 or 13.
Okay, okay, makes sense.
And so it's like this, you know, this kind of uh this ninja deck is not gonna like do huge explosive damage like something like Zan or Phi, but it is going to, the the idea at least behind these 0 for 4s is to try and make your opponent like feel like they have to give you cards to stop your Mask of Momentum procs so that their
Making their
turns
rate
become
worse.
weaker. If their turns become weaker, your blocking becomes more effective. Your 2 card hand becomes more effective because you didn't have to give up like more than 2 cards to block them, and it just, it creates this cycle of value, and you kind of like dictate the rhythm of the game, basically.
Okay.
So I just want to go over some cards in the deck real quick. So there's 2 Kodachis main board, and then there's 1 Zephyr Needle sideboard, and you just swap one of the Kodachis for Zephyr Needle in any matchup where you feel like they don't have a D-React. Zephyr Needle is a 2 attack dagger with Go Again that costs 1. But if they block it with something with a defense value greater than Zephyr Needle's power, it will break when the combat chain closes. Ira's ability, if you do Kodachi, Zephyr Needle, the Zephyr Needle will get +1 from Ira's ability because it affects weapons too. And it means that they have to block this with something with 4 defense to break it. And so that's why I was saying into decks that you feel like don't have D-React. So, you know, a lot of those lightning decks, their only D-React is Sigil of Suffering, which uniquely, even though it blocks for 4 if you take the Arcane, the way that it happens, it gets the block after it's already defended.
Mm-hmm.
And for the purpose of Zephyr Needle, it has to have the greater block when it's defended. Which I guess I should point out something if you do end up in a scenario where you think that like they go to do a D-React and you have a Razor Reflex, that does not save your Zephyr Needle.
Because it's defending before the Zephyr Needle gains the attack, so it's already been defended.
So it's already been defended by something with greater power. So the Razor Reflex cannot bail you out in that way.
Okay.
So those are the daggers we're running. Tunic, it's just you're purposely making the game go long because you're blocking out a lot and you're sending just efficient 2-card hands. So you get a lot of value out of Tunic. Probably like your best uses for Tunic is you get to do like Kodachi and then send one of these 2-cost attacks. And then so you're getting the on-hit value and the card draw value, and you're just gaming. The other thing you can save it for is like, let's say you attack with like Censor, doesn't have Go Again. If you have a Razor Reflex, you know, like let's say you arsenaled this Razor Reflex off of like one of the draws you got earlier, Kodachi, Censor, they're like, okay, fine, you already have an arsenal, so I'm going to say no blocks, Tunic counter, make this attack for 8, and then Razor Reflex will give it, so makes it attack for 8 because it gets a +3, and it also gives on hit it gains Go Again, so you'll draw the card and it'll get Go Again. And so that's the other use case for Tunic. Mask Momentum, it's just like, it's all part of the whole value engine we just talked about. There is sort of like a choice you can make between Snapdragon Scalers and the other one being
Breeze Riders?
Breeze Rider Boots.
Yeah.
I chose to go with Snapdragon Scalers with this build, even though Breeze Rider Boots blocks for 1 Battle Worn, which is very nice. The way I have this set up is like I have a bunch of combo cards, but I also have like stuff like Soul Beat Strike, Standing Order, E-Strike can be a nice one to use snaps on sometimes. If you like, you might do like draw a card, use snaps to give it Go Again. Make it attack for 7, use snaps to give it Go Again. And so I just wanted, like, the way I think of Snapdragon Scalers in this deck is I want it to be that like you just like pick one turn throughout the game, usually towards the end of the game where their life is lower, and you're just using. Oh, sorry.
Do you not also have to hit with Breeze Riders? Is that not the other thing? Like a black.
Yeah, you do. You do have to hit with Breeze Riders, and Breeze Riders only gives combo cards Go Again, which is I was explaining in a roundabout way, but what Breeze Riders does is it says if a ninja attack you control hits, destroy this. Combo cards you control this turn can go again. Which there are cool things you can do if you lean even further into the flick flack combo game plan. Because if like your whole deck is combo cards and you break the Breeze Rider boots, then you might have a hand where you're playing like Mauling Key, just playing like out all of these cards. But I wanted the Snapdragon Scalers just for the versatility and not playing into like sort of like high roll potential, but just like making sure that I can just like pick one turn out in the game where I do like Kadachi, and then something like a 1 for 5, and they might say no blocks, you can draw a card, and then it sort of is like the thing that would make a 4 or 5 card hand that might normally not do anything because you don't have a go again. It just gives you that go again.
Okay.
And then I'm playing Tiger Stripe Shuko, not really for anything it says on the card, though. Because of the stuff to do with tigers in this deck, you might incidentally get value off of it. It's just mostly that it's just 2-blade break.
Makes sense.
You could theoretically play Flick Knives, but I think blocking 2 is more important.
Yeah, I think I agree.
And then as far as the main deck goes, we're playing a whole bunch of 1-for-5s. Censor kind of being my favorite among them. Censor can be a tricky card to use. So
Because
what it
you
does,
hardly even know her.
Oh,
Sorry.
you got me there. So what Censor does, it says if it hits a hero, you name a card, and they can't play the named card until the end of their next turn. It kind of requires you to understand how other decks work, but to simplify it, what it kind of means is like, if I'm against a brute player, I attack with Censor, they say no blocks, I can just name Blood Rush Bellows, and then I know that their turn can't be a Blood Rush turn. And if I'm playing into Dio, I can name Cerebellum Processor, and I know that they can't play that and draw a bunch of cards, or High Octane or something like that. And
the other piece of advice.
Oh yeah.
Before you move on, as the assassin player here.
Oh yeah,
if you play
Censor gamer Cass Emerson right here.
Yeah, because in assassin you're blessed because you have a bunch of ways to see their hand. So I like to play Censor in assassin. It's just not currently in my build. But just like I mentioned before with assassin about like your opponent needing to check your graveyard and you also needing to check their graveyard and think about what they probably have. When you hit with Censor, take a beat, check what's in their graveyard, think about what you've seen them pitch. If there's any spot where you've gained knowledge in that way, if they've already used 2 blood rushes and they saw them early, quite unlikely they're going to see a third. Maybe into like a KO, if they said no blocks, they probably have no blocks in hand. So you might say like Wild Ride to prevent them from going wide that turn, or pulping if you've seen like that they've used a lot of Wild Rides already. Just use the information in the game. It's okay if you're wrong, but you want to make like the best guess you can.
Yeah, there are some things that can give you contextual clues as to like what is the best card for you to name on Censor. So yeah. The other 1-for-5s, we've got Mauling Key, because it's the only combo card. Like, I would play it even if there weren't Tiger stuff in the deck, just because it checks all the boxes of being 1-for-5 to get value out of the engine we've got set up. It has combo, it blocks 3. Torrent of Tempo is a 1-for-5, blocks 3, but it gains go again if it hits. So when you're playing in aggro decks, Kadachi 5, they probably don't want to block this, and if they don't, they get punished because you'll draw a card and then this will gain go again. Then So 1 for 5, 1 for 5. We've got Command and Conquer because it plays into the the 2-cost game plan of Kadachi, send the 2 cost with an on hit for 7. And Command and Conquer is like just the best card in the game.
It really
Speaking
is.
of best cards in the game, Enlightened Strike is the mid-range hand fixer. It's go again. It's cycle into an arsenal. It's a 2-card 7 if we need it to be. It just sort of just does everything. And we have a few cards in this deck that have go again, and that's for when we end up keeping we're keeping bigger hands and we want to make sure we're getting value out of them. We have our D-Reacts, so Flick Flack we talked about earlier. I'm running the reds and the yellows. Some people run the blues. I don't. This isn't like a full combo list. I've got like Flex Claws, Soulbead Strike. So I didn't think I needed 9. And the yellow one blocks for 3, which is still good value, but the blue one blocks for 2. And it blocking for 2 is good into some decks. Like, I'd say the blue Flick Flack is very good into Assassin because you block a dagger and then buff your next block. It's probably pretty good into Lightning because they have the sword that attacks for 2. But into a lot of other stuff, you've kind of just giving yourself a 2 block. And that can not feel great. And there would definitely be spots where you wish, instead of having the Flick Flack, that you just had 2-3 blocks. Especially if it's like against something that, like if they're just sending like a 6 attack, especially if it's Command and Conquer, because Command and Conquer doesn't let you block with defense reactions. But
Yeah.
If they were just sending like some tall attack, then you would want the 2-3 blocks. And so Flick Flack yellow doesn't feel that bad, and you get the value off of it. And then I've just got a Sink below in here as well.
Yeah.
I debated running Sink and Fate, but I felt like Flick Flack red, Flick Flack yellow, Sink and Fate would be too many defense reactions, and I wouldn't be able to properly sideboard out the defense reactions into the matchups where I don't feel like I need them. Because I still want to be attacking. That's the thing with Ira. This isn't a fatigue deck. I'm not just trying to block out my opponent until end of time. Ira's ability
Do you tend to sometimes pivot to fatigue?
You can, but you ideally want to fatigue through damage. You want to make it so that, because like Ira's ability says nothing about blocking. But
true. It's not like Dynamos. You don't get the added value if you're blocking with your whole hand. That's true.
Yeah, and like Ira doesn't say block, but also doesn't say send a 4-card hand. And so the middle ground is I want to be sending use enough cards out of my hand that I trigger her ability and then block with the rest of them.
Okay.
And then, so those are defense reactions. Some of the other combo card we have here is Aspect of Tiger Body. It can become a go again when paired with stuff like Bittering Thorns or Flex Claws or E-Strike, or if you kind of like Razor Reflex onto something. But it also is a 3-block combo card. It's also it can be a pretty good card to draw off of Mask Momentum, because with the way that this deck is built, if you're drawing off of Mask Momentum, it usually means that like you're sending.
You already played a red card.
Yeah, and so if it's not a red card if it doesn't have go again, then you can just arsenal this. But if it is something like Bittering Thorns, then you can send send a 3 go again after it, and then maybe lead into something else. And then it making the tiger makes it so that this can combo, which is also
Well, you can. There's another thing you can do with that tiger, which is you can arsenal it, and then you can play a 1-card 0 for 4 hand where you attack with the tiger, and then you play the 0 for 4,
well.
and it becomes a second attack.
Unfortunately, you just lied to our audience, Cassie, because this
What?
makes it in the banish zone.
No! Oh, I lied. Never mind. You can't do that. What the
So,
hell? This card's cringe.
Cass Emerson is a fraud.
I
you
don't
heard it
play
here
ninja.
first.
It's not my fault. Not my fault.
all of the non-mystic ninja cards only make it in the banish zone.
So only the mystic stuff makes it in hand?
Yeah, except for the yellow card, the Roar of the Tiger. That one makes it your hand. But all of the ones from Mistvale, they all that are just ninja, they all make it in the banish zone.
Okay.
And Flex Claws is a go again that makes a tiger. Like sometimes with Ira, you can if you start with the Flex Claws, make the tiger, and then Ira can make an attack for 1.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to like get value out of it that way. But you don't always have to play the tiger. Tigers also can receive razor reflex buffs. So you can trip people up with that. And then standing order we talked about.
Yeah. I think we've talked about all the red cards now.
Yeah, and yeah, like Soul Beat Strike does the same thing as Torn to Tempo. As far as the blues go, these are all just blue combo cards that block 3.
So that they're buffed by Flick Flack?
Yeah, so it's just like the blue slot is just where I jammed in a bunch of combo cards. The only notable ones is that, so this one combos off of a tiger and gets go again and +1. And Rushing River combos off of Torrent of Tempo.
Oh, right.
You will probably very rarely actually do this, but it's like there just in case. And then all of the other ones is just like
what does Rushing River do if he combos off of Torrent of Tempo?
So if Torrent of Tempo is the last attack this combat chain, Rushing River gains +1, go again. If it hits, draw X cards, then put X cards from your hand on top of your deck in any order where X is the number of attacks that have hit this combat chain. So
okay,
if you manage to go
bad.
if you manage to go dagger, Torrent of Tempo, and you like draw Rushing River, you play Rushing River, then you just kind of get to reorder the top 4 cards of your deck for consistency's sake.
But then you just draw them at the end of the turn. So it basically normally just gets +1. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you might have like, there are some scenarios where it may do something.
What if you have
Doesn't
like a
really
Ponder
matter.
token from Dissolve Reality or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to run this.
Interactions.
You don't have to run this card if you don't want to.
No, I don't mean that the card is bad. I just wanted to know,
Yeah.
like, because sometimes as a newer player, you see ninja combo cards and you see that the combo is there, and so like you said, like you won't go for it. But what if somebody does? And they're like, wait, it says combo.
True.
I just want to point out that like going for that combo is not worth playing out the Torrent of Tempo and holding that card.
Yeah, like it's not like all of the comboing that you do in this deck is meant to be incidental.
Okay.
Did we talk about Bittering Thorns? It's a pretty self-explanatory card.
We did.
Yeah, it's a very good card. And then I have Warmongers in the main board just because 3-block 0-cost blue, so it works with our Kodachis.
And there's no card in this deck that the Warmongers bricks, right?
No. There's no non-attack actions in this deck.
Yeah.
So like into the matchups where you don't need this card, don't Like, don't worry about it. You can just block with it. You can pitch it, do whatever you want with it. Into the matchups where it does matter, so like Rune Blades and Mechanologist and stuff like that, then you can think about arsenaling it. Think about, like, you know, taking worse turns to play it out. But if you're into a matchup where Warmongers doesn't matter, like, Standing Order is technically there to bail you out.
Otherwise, don't arsenal it.
Otherwise, don't arsenal it, because you just don't want to play it.
Now, instead of going over the sideboard,
Mhm.
just for the interest of time, I think it might be better to just move on to the next section since we're going to be talking about sideboard disruption cards anyways.
Yeah, so what I was saying earlier about how I feel like Ira is unique, and like Ninja as a class is unique in that it makes very good use of sideboard cards. We can talk a little about like what the different sideboard cards are in this game, and I've thrown a whole bunch of stuff in the maybe board here.
Oh, they're all on the maybe boards? Sweet.
Yeah. So we can pull them up as we talk about them, because this is an issue I've had trying to learn Yu-Gi-Oh a bit, is that I feel like people, they'll just be like, oh yeah, you just run Balance of Justice and not explain what it means. And so Cass and I were thinking that it'd be an interesting thing to talk about this pod. Just to
I want to
like,
give a specific
Yeah.
shout out. There's a Discord user in the new chat
Mhm.
on the purple Discord named Die.
Mhm.
And that person was saying, like, because they watched the podcast, which is still so cool to think about. Thank you to Die for watching the podcast. But
Yeah.
they said that it would be a cool idea to do like a breakdown of all the different disruptive sideboard pieces.
Mhm.
Because I remember when I was getting into this game, I I thought Erase Face was so broken. I was like, oh my god, you removed the class and talent types from cards? Like that means like they just can't play the game. And then you like attack a ranger with that and it does absolutely nothing because it doesn't remove the arrow subtype or stuff like that. Where it seems like you read a card and it says it does a thing, but you don't actually have a good understanding of what that means. So we just figured we'd go through those. We should try to keep it quick so that we don't go into the 2 hour dimension. I think
Yeah.
we're about an hour now, so
Yeah, we're just want to briefly go over like different sideboard cards in this game, what they're played for, and this will kind of help you sort of customize your Ira build for your local meta, because you don't want to play you want to play sideboard cards for the cards that people are actually for the decks that people are actually playing around you.
yeah, like there's no point in playing a race phase if there's no elemental heroes in your meta and there's no mechanologists, right? It's
Yeah.
not going to do anything unless there's like a lot of viscerae. Which I
So
guess let's start with a race phase, maybe.
yeah, so Erase Face, it's very good against lightning heroes. Both of their abilities rely on either fusing or like cards that say if you've played a lightning card this turn. Against the aggro mechanologist decks that are using the boost mechanic. Boost as a mechanic specifies that you have to banish a mechanologist card, and so this is very effective against them.
Dio also specifies you have to play mechanologist items off the top of deck, so it turns that off too.
Yes. I had written Phi in the notes, but I didn't realize that we were getting a new Volcor set. But I made this. This will be very good against those new Volcor heroes that say like, "Hey, this has to be a Draconic to get this ability."
Yeah.
With the Earth, the Decompose ability cares about Erase Face. There's like sort of like, like less of an argument to play something like these 2-cost 6 disruptive things into decks that already are trying to be mid-rangey, because they'll want to block it out, whereas like the lightning heroes, they don't want to block Erase Face. When you attack them with Erase Face, they're like, oh man, now I have to change what I was going to do because this is going to ruin my turn. And then Viscerae, this is very good in too, because a lot of the Runeblade cards specify that they have to target Runeblade cards, and Viscerai's ability itself specifies that play a non-attack action, and then every Runeblade card you play after that makes a rune. So that turns all of that off. And yeah, there are technically some other decks like new, some of the assassin cards.
The Mystic Assassin ones specifically specify like assassin or mystic attacks. I think Shred is the only generic assassin one that cares about it being an assassin card.
Yeah, and then stuff like the Jarl deck that'll come out eventually. But what I was saying about how it is for the Earth Heroes, those decks kind of like want to block that anyway. So like, you might attack Jarl with a Race Face, and then the Jarl pair will just be like, okay, and then just 2 cards and then send a hammer and then arsenal something. So it's like it doesn't really mess with their game plan like it does with the aggro decks.
Yeah.
And then kind of a Vincent is kind of a weird one, because Vincent does play some of those Runeblade cards that give go again and specify that it's targeting a Runeblade card, but I think it's Shadow Puppetry does not. And they can use creepers to get go again, and the Rune Gate mechanic does not care about. It's hard to say. Like, I think a Race Face is okay if you have nothing else to bring, then sure.
Yeah, but it doesn't actually disrupt rune gating. It only cares about rune chants, and those don't lose their name when they get hit by a Race Face.
And then I'll just talk about Prism real briefly. Only some of her cards care about light, but this will apply to all of the 6 and higher attacks that we talk about. But the nice thing about cards like a Race Face is, for the purpose of Phantasm, they also trigger Phantasm. And so they do double duty of like being your disruption into those aggro decks. And then when you play against an illusionist and they attack you with a Phantasm attack that says, if you block with a 6 power attack, then it will just get destroyed. That's where stuff like a Race Face or the Weakest Link can be very helpful. So that's about it for a Race Face. Talk about the Weakest Link.
I love this card.
I guess we didn't say what a Race Face did, but that should be.
No, we did. We said it removes class and talent types.
Okay. So what Weakest Link does, if it hits a hero, then you look at their hand and you grab something with 0 block. Is it 0 block, or is it have
no, it's without base defense.
Okay, so if it has 0 block, it's fine, but it has to specifically have no block value.
Yeah, it has to have no defense value. There's that one lightning card that specifically has 0 block, and it does not get triggered by Weakest Link.
And then if you do that, they discard it and you draw a card. So this is really good into all of the Mystic heroes with their chi, into the Lightning decks that have a lot of instants, into Prism with her 0 cost instant auras, into Brute decks that have all of those Brute cards that are crazy above rate but are nerfed by having no block value, and into Dio, because Dio has a lot of items. It is technically does something into some of the wizards, because some of the wizards are playing potions a lot of the time.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't count on it too much.
I
But
hit
definitely,
with a Weakest Link the one time, and like, it was early in the game into Verdance, so she discarded a healing potion and just FF'd. I was like, I don't think it's that backbreaking. It's okay if you discard one of the potions,
but this is mostly for the Mystic, Lightning, and Brute Dio, Prism. If you have a Prism in your meta, it's very good into them, and especially the drawing the card part of it, super good. And the nice thing about the Weakest Link as well is, if you hit them, even if they don't have a 0 block card, you still get to see their whole hand. I know into Assassin in particular, it is like very helpful to know whether the new player, like what the exact reactions they have in their hand, and it really informs your blocking for the next turn.
We
So,
love getting to look at the opponent's hand.
very, very good card. The next card I want to talk about is
Blanche.
Blanche. So this is a 3 for 7 that if it hits, their cards don't have colors anymore. That matters for free talents specifically. Mystic, all the cards, bunch of cards that care about blue.
Mhm.
Light, a bunch of the cards care about yellow. And Draconic, which cares about red. Now,
Mhm.
as where Phi currently stands, he does not care too much about that.
But the new ones probably will.
Yeah, like we haven't seen all of the cards from the new ones, but Draconic typically cares about things being red. So
There's also one more thing that this one technically does something into, which
Yeah.
is it means that Kasai can't activate her ability because she cares about reds and yellows in the graveyard.
that's right. So that is what that one does. And then this is a new card from Rosetta.
Mhm.
That is
That we spec'd on and then we were wrong about what the set was going to be. And by that I mean I was wrong.
I mean, it's still good that we got it.
Yeah.
So this is a 3 for 7 that can't be defended by auras, and when it hits a hero, you destroy an aura they control. So the deck that this is mostly for is Enigma. But there are quite a few decks that
I would say it's
have
mostly
auras.
for Prism.
It's like Enigma and Prism. It's like kind of how you deal with Illusionist if you're not very good at dealing with them.
It depends if the Enigma's playing Spectras. 'Cause
Yeah,
a lot of
like
them don't.
it
And if they don't,
it can
there's
change
like
depending on the build.
this has to hit and then they wouldn't have any words
Oh,
around
that's true.
stuff.
So it's mostly for Prism and
Mhm.
destroying her wards. There are a few other heroes that have auras that
Like Rune
um,
Blades.
Rune Blades have them. Um, some like the heavy hitters heroes, the agility token in particular is an aura that you can destroy with this.
Hmm.
I don't know if I would play this specifically to target Brute, because you kind of can play like a race face to get away with that. But there is like some auras that you can destroy with it that would be
You
annoying
mean
for
Weakest
them.
Link?
Oh, what did I say?
Or
Did I
Ace
say?
Face?
Oh, yeah, weakest link is what I meant to say. Weakest link covers a lot of the bases for Brute that I feel like doing this just to destroy their agility token may be excessive.
Yeah.
And then a card we mentioned earlier, Warmongers, is like any deck that's trying to mix attack actions and non-attack actions. You know, it's especially good in something like Ira, where you can like do some go agains and then end the turn with this. So they might be like, all right, I'm gonna take that damage. We're gonna tank it all, and then we're gonna throw back this turn. You hit them with the Warmongers. They go, oh. They complain about how broken of a card it is and how it should have never been printed, and then it goes back to your turn.
I would never do that. I've never complained about Warmongers when I played Azalea. I have a very good mental.
And so the decks that really like to mix attacks and non-attacks, so Rune Blades, Rangers,
Dashio.
Dash IO likes to mix playing the items and the boost cards, and Cilio is trying to do a whole bunch of lightning cards to end with the non-attack action. Doesn't like always work into Cilio, but you know, between like so like some of the heroes like like Azalea for example, you slam this because you know for a fact that's how her turn works. Something like Acilio, he might draw the hand that works fine through Warmongers, and someone like Viscerai can do that too. But it's a very good disruption piece. Over time, they have just like LSS has just like kind of like given decks outs to this card, so it's not like as BS. And then there's like a few other decks where it can be okay into. If you're playing up against like a combo Bolton, if you resolve Warmongers, they can't do the combo turn because they
can't
have
play Lumina Ascension.
Yeah. But other than that, it won't stop any of their other turns. But if you know that they're like saving up for the combo specifically, and you can kind of sniff out that they're ready to do it, then maybe you can drop a Warmongers, and that will ruin their whole life. Warriors, it sometimes works, but sometimes it doesn't.
I think it's probably not worth doing.
Yeah.
Into Warrior, yeah.
There's a temptation to do it, but because sometimes they need non-attack actions to give their weapons a go again, but especially like the dual wield warriors, they do run like 9 copies of Blade Runner, which is a
They're on
attack
12
range.
copies technically.
Oh yeah, because of run through, and so like they have a lot of reactions that could go again, so it's kind of a gamble whether it actually bricks them. Into Brute, it's again kind of iffy. It technically stops a Blood Rush turn, stop them from rolling Scabs, and it would stop them from ending their turn with Cast Bones if they're a Brute that's playing Cast Bones.
I don't think KOs tend to play Cast Bones anymore that much. I could be wrong.
But it stops the Blood Rush turn, but, we were saying earlier that, like, Censor can kind of be, like, can kind of accomplish that as well. So I wouldn't force the Warmongers. And then into Victor, it stops him doing the visit the Goldmane estate turns. But again, like, there's no guarantee that he has it, and so it does a few things, but it doesn't do everything. But into like Rangers and Runeblades is definitely very good. And then let's talk about Ripple Away. So
I need you to blitz through this one because there's so many interactions with it.
Yeah.
So just name the interactions on this one, probably.
So this stops tokens from being made.
By action cards specifically.
Yes. So does not count hero abilities, does not count from instance, and does not account from stuff coming from equipment. But there are particularly good cards that Ripple Away is very effective into. I'd say Codex of Frailty is definitely like one of the biggest ones because it stops them from making the Ponder and it stops you from getting the Frailty, which is very good from you. Sometimes into the Runeblades, you discarding this to stop them from making Rune Chants off of certain cards. This doesn't stop Rune Chants off of Viscerai or Vincent's ability, but it might off of like would stop it off of a Malefic Incantations or something like that. And into Viscerai probably not as much, but into Vincent can definitely like really mess with her Rune Chant math if you stop her from making one of those. Into all of the heavy hitters heroes, which is like where this card was printed, they all have lots of action cards that make all these different types of tokens, and so Ripple Away really helps there. This will probably be...
There's a spider that just drifted down near my microphone. Hello, little Arakni.
Oh, I can see it on the camera. That's cool.
You can see it on the camera?
Yeah. I saw it very briefly. But yeah, so there's like a bunch of different decks that are making tokens off of action cards that can be very helpful into. People tend not to like actually put this in the sideboard though. They tend to put it in the main board of a deck that has a lot of blues in it already.
Yeah.
And they just sort of like squeeze it in there.
It's risky to do that in Ira because it's not a 0-cost blue, so you can't pitch it to Kadachi.
Yeah.
In New, you totally can, though.
Yeah, like people can play this. We'll play this in Assassin. I see it played a lot in Warrior, Enigma. If someone's playing like the Fatigue Dash and it just wants a lot of 3-block blues, this will find its way in there as well.
Yeah.
So very good card against a lot of different decks, but just make sure when you're using it that it's like the token's actually coming from an action card and not a hero ability.
And also that's getting you more value than just blocking 3 would.
Yeah. Let's talk about Poison the Well. So
yeah,
very simple. This just says if they were to gain life, they just lose that much instead. This is mostly for the life gain decks that are playing Count Your Blessings or Verdance, which cares a lot about life gain. And Florian, there are some Florian builds that are focused on life gain. And just
important note I learned about this card because of the Judge Twitter account. If Verdance plays her spec that gains 1, then gains 1, then gains 1, if she's at 1 life and she plays that card and you play Poison the Well and it sets her to 0 life, her whole card has to resolve before it checks if she's dead. So it'll put her to 0 and then 1 and then 2. So
weird.
You cannot kill her off of that card. You can kill people with other sources of healing, but that one, because it's multiple instances of healing, it does not kill her.
That's interesting. I didn't know that's how that worked. So yeah, if you've got a bunch of if your friends are degenerates and are playing a bunch of Count Your Blessings,
hey now,
then
don't insult life gain, please. Aggro player.
I kid. But yeah, so that's mainly what it's for. Next card, Snag.
Don't play this card. It's a bad card.
It's like possibly okay in Zen, but I've just cut it from my Zen deck. I don't feel like I need it. This round's on me.
It's just for New.
It's New is the only hero that Snag benefits or does anything into.
And if you are getting bodied by a New, you can play it. It's just I don't think it's that good personally.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of ways to play around it.
The weakest link I would definitely prefer over Snag because the weakest link does stuff into multiple matchups.
Yeah.
This round's on me. Again, typically not a card people actually put in their sideboard, but will slot into a deck that already has a lot of blues. This will probably become more prevalent now that we're getting like a bunch of like go wide dagger decks.
Oh, this is going to do work into the dagger decks. I just realized.
Yeah.
Make sure you have your copies of This Round's on Me if you don't already.
So yeah, like all it does is just you play it, you both draw a card, and then until the end of your next turn, the cards that attack you get -1. So you just have to, you got to make sure that them drawing the card isn't getting them more value than they're losing from the -1. And so typically decks that go very wide, you get a lot of value out of -1 and they don't get a ton of value out of card. A deck like Brute, for example, which goes like a couple chain links wide, but is mostly going tall, you drawing them the extra card does not justify you giving them -1 to everything.
Yeah.
Is basically what I would like. All I gotta say about that card. Hold the Line is the next card I have in my notes. It's just a blue 2-block D-React that if they've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, it becomes a 0/5 D-React.
Yeah, but important, it prevents the next 3 damage you would be dealt, but it carries over. So it can absorb like instances of 1 damage that will eat up that 3 prevention. It's not like 1 instance of damage, it'll prevent the next 3 instances of damage you take.
Yeah, and it can block Arcane into something like Aurora or something.
Yes.
Definitely an argument to run this card with the Lightning Heroes and Dio and stuff, drawing a bunch of cards. You could put this in Ira just because it is like a 0 cost thing, but I don't have it in there right now just because.
The book banning's made it pretty niche, I think.
Yeah, and I just don't. There's other stuff that I care about more because like I feel like Flick Flack for Ira specifically is covering the like, hey, I'm going wide. And then kind of in the same vein, Balance of Justice is a headpiece that blocks 2, and then Guardwell just says that it gets 2 minus counters on it, so it just blocks 2 once, but it doesn't destroy itself like Blade Break. And then you can destroy this to draw a card, but you can only activate that if you've drawn 2 or more cards. So it's slightly better than Hold the Line because you don't like you have to actually draw Hold the Line at the right time. This is just an equipment, so it sits there. With Ira, you're going to want to play Mask of Momentum into as many matchups as possible, so you aren't going to want to do the sideboard headpieces like Balance of Justice or Crown of Providence. But for other decks that your headpiece is a flex slot, you know, throwing in a Balance of Justice like really helps against Brute. It really helps against Dio. Helps against the Lightning Heroes. So I'd say it's better than Hold the Line just because it's easier to get the value out of it because you can just break it as soon as they kind of go for their big pop-off turn. I want to talk really briefly about Oassis Respite. So this card is mostly for Kano. Because what it does is it prevents 4 damage from a source, which when Kano goes for his big Aether Wildfire combo turn, if you target it with Oassis Respite, you prevent 4 damage from it, and that means the exponential damage of it buffing the next cards based on how much damage it does is lessened. And then Oassis Respite can be helpful into dominate decks like Azalea or like Azuri or like Guardian dominate stuff. But it's kind of like it's mostly for Kano, and I don't think Kano is super good right now. I think he's been pushed out of the meta quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
when it is in, though, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a Kano player at your store and you don't want to lose to them, having AB3 3 Oasis definitely is a good way to ruin their day.
Yeah.
Then let's talk about that all you got. So this is
also going to get pretty good into daggers.
Yes. So what this card does is it's a D-react that when it defends something that has 2 or less base attack, you'll draw a card when the combat chain closes. So, you know, Starfall with Aurora, that's like a pretty big one. All of the daggers on the Ninja and Assassin decks. Crouching Tigers, Pistol for mech. You can use this like for the dual wield warriors where they're kind of like trying to buff the second one that they do. Then you can get the defensive value and then draw the card back. So it's just like a nice little thing to, you know, be able to save yourself a little bit of life, but also not like have your full hand to deal with stuff. I would say into new, it's particularly nice because her daggers have on hits. So stopping a missed blade, but not actually having to get up the card is pretty good.
You can also use this if they attack you with a stealth and you don't think they're going to pump it with a reaction. You can just like cover it with this and then draw a card. Yeah, but don't play it into new, please. I don't like it.
Crown of Providence. When this defends, so it's 2 blade break, and then when it defends, you can put a card from your hand or arsenal from the bottom onto the bottom of your deck, and then draw a card. This is like one of the cards that best deals with CNC,
Hmm.
where they attack you with CNC. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna block with Crown of Providence, sink the card, and then draw a new one.
I really enjoyed them replacing this card with good class headpieces because it makes Assassin better.
Yeah. Um, and in Ira, we're not gonna play this because we want to play Mask of Momentum all the time. But if you're playing a class that has open headpiece slots, it can be very good. The next one I want to talk about is Vambrace of Determination. So this is a once per turn attack reaction. You can pay 1, and then the next prevention effect that prevents attack damage this turn prevents 1 less of that damage. And then it has other text to give it +1 and Blade Break, but you don't really want to activate that. You're mostly just using Vambrace to deal with Enigma, I'd say.
Mhm.
Just to like help like kind of be able to get through her ward.
You can kind of use it for Prism too.
Yeah, but it's mostly for Enigma because Enigma is just more popular than Prism right now.
Yeah.
Next thing I want to talk about, Stonewall Gauntlet. This is a weird card just because there's a bit of counterplay to it that might not seem obvious. But what this says is it's Blade Break 1. When this defends against an attack with attack greater than its base, then all opposing attacks this combat chain get -1. So into something like Ninja that wants to keep the combat chain open, because there's a bunch of cards that reference the combat chain, whether it's combo or things that are counting the number of hits or the number of chain links. This is very good into. But it's not good into every aggro deck. Something like Brute, for example, you can block, like they would attack with something with a buffed power, then you would like block it with your Stonewall Gauntlet, and then they'd be like, okay, I'm just going to close the combat chain and then just send my next attack anyway because I don't need the combat chain to be continuous for my stuff to work.
Mhm.
So you just want to, you can play this, but just make sure that you're actually playing it into a deck that wants to keep the combat chain open.
Only other spot is if you're like a hero like Verdance that doesn't really have a good arm piece. You can use this just as a 2-block arm piece if your class doesn't have one. Like whenever there's a buff on something, you can just use it to block 2.
Yeah, like I almost put it in this Ira build,
Mm-hmm.
but I really wanted to make room for this one remembrance in the sideboard
Yeah.
because against decks that are trying to fatigue you, it's just so good to be able to like cycle your cards back in so
Mm.
that you can just like, because like cycling back in 3 of your 1-for-5s, that's like a whole like 8 damage in this deck.
Yeah.
And then last couple things I wanted to touch on real quickly. I just kind of wanted to talk about the difference between Arcane Barrier
And Spellvoid.
and Spellvoid. So Arcane Barrier is what you're going to use for most of the Arcane decks. Rune Blades, you only need Arcane Barrier 1 because Rune Chants just come as damage in instances of 1. So, sending 3 Rune Chants, AB1 will cover all of the damage from that. Spellvoid is useful into Kano in particular for the same reason we talked about with Oassis Respite, where preventing the damage on that big wildfire turn is pretty important. And what Spellvoid allows you to do, especially if you're playing like an aggressive deck, it allows you to be able to just pressure the Kano without having to worry about going shields down when
And like holding back mana or holding back resources to pay for their AB.
yeah, because like, and we'll probably see this be played in the Draconic decks because the Draconic decks want to have very little amount of blues, which means that they won't really have cards to pay into the deal with the wildfire combo, so they're probably going to rely on that a lot. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was these two cards, Arcanite Skullcap and Arcanite Fortress. Arcanite Fortress was something that they released in Rosetta. Arcanite Skullcap has been in the game for a very long time.
Used to be like a $200 card.
Yeah, but before they printed Crown of Providence, which is kind of like, for most decks, universally replaced Skullcap. Like, there kind of was no reason to play this, but since they printed Arcanite Fortress, now there is like a reason to play both of them. What Arcanite Skullcap does is it's one battle worn, but if you have less health than your opponent, it gets +1 block and Arcane Barrier 3. This Arcane Barrier 3 can be very tricky to use into Kano because he starts with 30 life and you have way more stuff than him. So I definitely would never use Arcanite Skullcap specifically to rely on its Arcane Barrier. But Arcanite Fortress, what it does is it gets block equal to the number of Arcanites you have, and it gets Spellvoid equal to the number of Arcanites you have. So
I'm assuming there's going to be more Arcanite equipment coming. Which
yeah,
is
like
cool.
if they end up doing like an arm piece and a leg piece to go with it, then, you know, that could be very interesting. But for now, what I'd probably say is I wouldn't equip these two cards unless you're playing a hero that has less than 40 health to start with. I've seen Acilio decks put these two cards in there.
That makes sense.
Because for Acilio, what this would do is into matchups, like, because as a wizard, you don't have like any blocking equipment, and you're relying on the generics to get you there. And so, as Acilio, this would give you block 2 on the headpiece and block 2 Spellvoid 2 on the chest piece, which could be very helpful. Yeah. And that is it for what I wanted to talk about with sideboard cards.
Sweet.
I
think. Was there something else?
I just wanted to briefly mention, just because I didn't talk about it earlier, but we had mentioned it earlier when we were talking about how James White and Brian Gottlieb were saying about Count Your Blessings, that like, hey, Gravekeeping is a card that you can use to deal with that. I have it in my
I
Ira.
got the math wrong in the last video because I forgot that Passover wasn't an attack. Yeah.
So Gravekeeping, for Ira, you can use it to banish Count Your Blessings. And into like some other decks, you can use it to banish like Phoenix Flames, or into Rangers and Assassins that are trying to get cards back off Codex. You can banish those cards as well with this.
You can also use it to give a Shadow Heroes Blood Debt. You can also use it to mess with Levia's 6s in your graveyard.
Yes, and so I just thought it was like 1 for 5, very good stat line in this deck, and that on attack ability is like pretty relevant into some decks. But I just didn't want to play Poison the Well to deal with Count Your Blessings as Ira, because I feel like it's so, I don't like the card personally. I feel like it's a big gamble whether it does something.
I don't necessarily agree, but I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Because the Count Your Blessings decks are trying to make the game go long, so you just pitch stack into them anyways. And you just wait till they play their last Count Your Blessings, and then it undoes all of the Count Your Blessings. That's how you're supposed to use it.
True.
Because like the last Count Your Blessings heals them for, like, say it's a red. It's like what, 3 + 8? Is it like 11? So you can just like save it for the last count your blessings, nuke them for 11, or even the penultimate count your blessings can nuke them for quite a bit. So I don't think the Poison the Will is bad. I do not think Poison the Will is bad. But in a deck that wants to block efficiently, it's probably better to run like a tech piece that blocks.
Well, yeah, for this deck, why I don't like Poison the Will for it is like into someone like Enigma. I don't know whether it's Enigma or CYB Enigma.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to take out my D-reacts to bring in something that does damage.
That makes sense.
And not have to guess whether or not it's CYB Enigma. That's my thinking.
No, that's totally fair.
So I think that about wraps up.
So real quick,
on the sideboard cards.
How many Ira lists are we putting in this description here?
So this is the main one I'm running right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely want to put in like the full combo one.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to put in a list that takes advantage of a card called Even Bigger Than That. Just because I feel like it's
because you're addicted to this card.
It's so fun. It's such a fun card.
I feel I want to run it in Arakni personally. I love running it in Arakni.
It might be a little confusing when you first look at it, but the way that it works in Ninja is that you attack with a dagger for 1. They usually don't want to block that 1. They want to block either the second chain link or the third chain link. And so you'll usually get 1 damage in. You'll attack with the second dagger. Then they might block that. Or they won't. But you play Even Bigger Than That on that chain link after you attacked with the second dagger. And so you can play it only if you've dealt damage this turn condition. Then you opt 3, reveal a card off of your deck. You've got to make sure that your deck only has 2 attack blues, so you would cut all of these 1 attack blues. And then you reveal that card. Even if it's one of your 2 attack blues, 2 is bigger than 1. So then you'll draw that card and make a Quicken token. And the Quicken token, lets you give stuff like Censor go again. And all of these like 1 for 5 combo cards go again. And then if they're not blocking you at all and you get to draw a card, then you're just like, you're getting to opt and like reorder to like see what you're drawing and things like that. So it's very neat. The only issue with it is that into
Enigma.
Yeah, into Enigma, because she's gonna block your first dagger with her Phantasmal Footsteps, and into Dual Wield Warrior playing Valiant Dynamo. They're also gonna use their Valiant Dynamo to block your first dagger to get the value out of it, or they might save it to later. But if they knew that you were doing this, they just have to keep blocking the first dagger with their dynamos, and then you don't get to trigger Mask, and then you don't get to use this effectively either.
Yeah.
So
yeah, all of those Ira builds we're gonna put in our description. We're gonna try to, every time we talk about a deck, we have our Bloodrot Talks Fabry account, so all the decks that we talk about we're gonna post on there. So you can try them out on Talishar, take a look at them if you have the cards already, put them together. I saw that some people were pretty happy that we had put them in the description. I think some people paywall their deck list or their sideboard guides behind Patreon, and we have no intention to do that because this is our second episode. Obviously, we're not going to do a Patreon. But
even still, we just not that we're trying to throw shade at people who trying to make money off of the work they do, but just I feel like card games are better when people just share information and aren't trying to gatekeep stuff. And I definitely don't this game's already expensive. I don't want to gatekeep knowing what sideboard cards to bring in based on whether you've paid $15 a month,
Yeah. assassin prices are going up. It's hard. It's a struggle out there for new players. So
For sure.
if you are a new player, we appreciate you. We want to make things as easy as we can because
Absolutely.
it's a long road ahead. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up for episode 2. Thank you once again to everyone who watched episode 1 and to everyone who's made it through this one. I hope you've enjoyed.
Everyone who commented, everyone who shared our video. Really appreciate all of you guys. Like it means so much to us how much you guys liked the first episode. We did this not knowing whether it was going to do well at all, and it's really warms our heart and makes us feel like really inspired to do more of these, to know that you guys are out there and you're wanting more of us.
Absolutely. And also, as it turns out, it's really rad when people make suggestions, because when Dia made that suggestion about the sideboard thing, it like really lined up with us wanting to make a video about Ira anyways, and it kind of helped us write episode 2. So if you have any suggestions for things you would like to see, whether you are a fresh player to Flesh and Blood, or if you've been around for a while but you're curious about a particular deck, we're specialists in Assassin and Ninja, but we play a lot of decks. So if you have any requests or any questions to ask us, feel free to leave us a comment. You can message us on Discord. Like I said, I hang around. Some people found me on Discord and shot me some messages. But yeah, so I hope y'all are excited for the Hunted. I am super excited to spend all my money on that shiny Arakni cardboard, and I'm really excited to draft it at the Pro Tour London. I'm super psyched for that.
Yeah, and I'm excited to start playing Ira starting this weekend.
Yeah, I hope you make it out to your game store, play those Ira events, get those free cards for participation, and yeah, keep playing great games in the Flesh and Blood. We will also be playing games not in the Flesh and Blood. I forgot to mention. I mentioned it earlier, but there will be gameplay. Maybe not streams. Maybe streams. Maybe I'll do a stream. We'll see. But I'm wanting to do some new gameplay. I have a couple changes to my list that I want to test, and so I'm gonna try and do some gameplay for that.
Yeah, and I'll probably do some Ira gameplay as I get more testing in at our local store, and I figure out kind of like what works and what doesn't. This was just sort of like our early theory crafting, having only played like some games against each other and some stuff on Talishar. So when we get more data, I'll come back with you to give you the freshest Ira deck lists.
Absolutely. But yeah, so happy Halloween, everyone. Keep enjoying the game. It's a great time to play Flesh and Blood. Make sure all of your friends get into it, and until next time. Thanks for watching.
Have a good one.